ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our weekly session. We shall continue our journey on chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita, verse number 12 onwards. Now in the beginning of this chapter, Lord Krishna said that he will tell us what is Chitra and what is Chitragya. So he already told us what is Chitra. And then he also told us what is knowledge, what is Gyan, and what is Ajnan. Now he is going to tell us about Kshetragya, what is Brahma or what is Paramatma or what is consciousness. Now this issue has been a very fundamental issue in human history, in all civilizations. Is there a God? If it is so, who is that? Where is that? What is his shape, size, action, how he appears? All that has come into play in variety of ways in all civilizations. In our civilization, in fact, in Upanishads, this has been the most important theme of all time. Some of the Upanishads start with the question, what is Brahma? And some say that what is that to whom if we know, then everything else will be known as known. जो एक ऐसी वस्तु क्या है जिसको जानने से सब चीजें जानी हुई जाती हैं, वो क्या है? This is the theme of many of the Upanishads, and this is what we are talking here. But at the same time, lot of Upanishads, in fact Mandukya Upanishad which we discussed, also talks about this thing and tells us कि परमात्मा तो जाना नहीं जा सकता, उसका रूप नहीं है, उसका रंग नहीं है, उसको सोच भी नहीं सकते, उसको व्यवहार में भी नहीं ला सकते. Now this has been told in variety of ways that he has no form, he has no color, he has no shape, he has no size, he cannot be thought of. Then how do we understand that? So this is what we call paradox. Now this is the language of paradox which we are going to have here as well, because to understand that supreme power, we cannot understand that without the language of paradox. Now the reason for that is clear that our language and our words can only express what is limited and what is in form and what can be understood by our sense organs and our mind. If something is aseem, something is infinite, then our sense organs and our mind is unable to understand that. And because of these limitations, we have set limits, both in terms of linguistic expression and also in terms of our understanding through sense organs. And that is why we call it language of paradox, because what is understood, what is not understood is not understood. So now this is a question which comes here, and we have to, this is one thing very important in Bhagavad Gita, that here Lord Krishna has not said anywhere, at least to my knowledge, that Brahma cannot be understood. Brahma इज अचिंत्य, जो मतलब उसकी सोच भी नहीं सकते, ऐसा कहीं इन्होंने नहीं कहा है लॉर्ड कृष्ण ने भगवद गीता. While this thing has come in Upanishads in variety of ways, and he is now trying to explain what Kshetragya is, means what Brahma is, or what Purus is. He has already explained what Prakriti is, and now he is explaining what Purus is. So let's go over on verse number 12 first. जो जानने योग्य तथा जिसको जानकर मनुष्य परमानंद को प्राप्त होता है, उसको भली भांति कहूंगा। वह अनादि वाला पर ब्रह्म न सत ही कहा गया है और न असत ही कहा गया है। Now this is a very profound statement. The three things here. जानने योग्य, that he is the only thing which we need to know. And that is what Upanishad says, that this is one thing in the universe which you know, then you know everything else. So this is what he is saying here, that he is the only one whom we need to know. जानने योग्य है. That is one. Secondly, he is the only one who can give you Paramananda, eternal peace, eternal happiness, eternal bliss. Is possible only when we know him. Otherwise, eternal peace and eternal bliss is impossible. Then he has said, Anadi wala, par Brahm na sat kaha gaya hai, na asat. So Anadi means he has no origin. He existed all the time. Whenever we can imagine time, he was in existence. There is no time and space without him. That is Anadi. And Sat and Asat. Now, here also, this is a statement which is very not so well understood sometimes. So he says that उसको न सत कहा गया है न असत कहा गया है because he is everything. The implication here is that how can you differentiate between Sat and Asat when everything else is he? Not everything else, everything is he. That is what he said in previous chapter. At one point he said that जैसे जल बर्फ में होता है उसी तरह से इस पूरे संसार में मैं समाया हुआ हूं. So exactly everything in ice is water, nothing but water. Similarly, everything in this universe is the Supreme, the Brahma, the Lord, the Kshetrajna. And therefore, there is no point in dividing him between Sat and Asat. That is the most supreme thought. Many times we differentiate between Sat which is, uh, which doesn't change with time. Sat which is eternal, which is perpetual, and Asat, we call this world which is depreciating, which is taking birth and then slowly dying and reaching the death. That is what we call Asat. But in the ultimate sense, that is what the language here is. So we should not confuse the normal language of Asat here. Here the meaning of Sat and Asat is that if one single thing is pervading everything, there is no point in differentiating between Sat and Asat. And that is what he is saying here, that he is both Sat and Asat, or he is neither Sat nor Asat, he is everything. So this is the first, in fact, verse which gives a glimpse of the paradox of defining him. Now, when we start our session every time, uh, we start with this verse, Purn Madah Purn Midam Purnat Purn Mudachyate, that he is complete in every respect. And this world is complete, and the complete comes out complete, and still the complete remains intact. Now that is also a contradiction defining the Supreme. That you take out everything out of everything and still it remains intact. With our worldly sense, it looks illogical. But in the greater sense of the universe, it is absolutely logical. Because if Purn can be taken out and kept elsewhere, then it is not Purn, because there is no other place to keep it. The Purn itself is complete in every respect, therefore it cannot be moved out anywhere. It is not possible. And that is why this contradiction occurs to our mind because we always look at things in parts. We cannot imagine infinite existence. That is not our nature, because we live in this world where things are divided in forms, in parts, and in growth and death and birth. All these things are visible to us through our sense organs, and therefore we cannot imagine things which are absolutely infinite, which are eternal, which have all pervading and quality. Now, if you look at the English word omnipresent or omniscient, basically they come from Sanskrit root. Om is the Brahm, and scient is basically the knowledge, that he is everything, he knows everything, and omnipresent, that he is pervading everything. So this is also the meaning in English language, and I suppose in other languages as well. So what I'm saying here is that because our mind and sense organs are used to see things in parts, we are not able to see infinite. And that is why this contradiction or this paradox appears in our mind. But if we see totality of things, then this paradox is not there. Like if we see water in the ice, then there's no paradox. Everything in ice is water. If we see Akash in this entire universe, the Akash is everywhere. There's no paradox there. There's no less Akash or more Akash or good Akash or bad Akash or small Akash or big Akash. No, it's everywhere. So that paradox disappears as we think about the universal existence of the Supreme. So that is the verse number 12. So Sat and Asat is not a paradox in relation to the Supreme, because he is everywhere. He is both Sat and Asat, or if you take the negative language, he is neither Sat nor Asat, he is everything. Then the next verse, सब ओर से हाथ पैर वाला, सब ओर नेत्र सिर और मुख वाला, सब ओर कान वाला, क्योंकि वह संसार में सबको व्याप्त करके स्थित है. Now this Sanskrit verse, Sarvatra Panipadam, this verse appears exactly in the same way in Shvetasvatar Upanishad, exactly identical. There are very few verses which are exactly identical in different scriptures of Hinduism. This is one of those verses. This is actually verse number 316 of Shvetasvatar Upanishad, and identical verse is here in Bhagavad Gita 13:13, 13th verse of 13th chapter. Now, Panipadam, that is, his hands are everywhere, his feet are everywhere, his eyes are everywhere, his sir is everywhere, his head is everywhere, his mouth is everywhere. Sub everywhere is his ears, and he is existing everywhere, keeping everything in him. Now, this is exactly the same thing as he mentioned before. That is, there was another verse which was used by Lord Krishna before, that ये संसार सूत्र में इस तरह से बंधा हुआ है जैसे सूत्र में सूत्र की मणियां. Exactly here, the whole universe is absolutely tied down and appears from the same existence which is called Brahm. That existence of Brahm is all pervasive. It is the one which pervades everything, and this is the one which appears in parts as well. Now here he says हाथ पैर वाला, सब और कान मुख वाला. At the same time, he will say later on that he has no senses, no sense organs. There is also said in Upanishad that he has no hands, he has no mouth, he has no face, he has no ears. Still, he has thousands of faces, he has millions of uh, ears, he has millions of eyes. This number is only indicative that he is pervading everything. So nobody can escape his presence. Like in today's reference, if we go on internet, every activity we undertake is automatically recorded. While we do not see any eye, any ear, anything on the internet when we operate, but it is automatically recorded what all you did. Every millisecond action on internet is recorded. Similarly, his pervasiveness is so massive and so overall that though it doesn't appear, but everything pervades in him. So he can see everything, he can hear everything, he can touch everything, despite the fact that he doesn't appear to have any of the senses. It is exactly the same way as the digital world appears today. In the digital world, we do not see any eyes, we do not see any ears, we do not see any face, but all our activities, all our actions are invariably recorded. Similarly, here also the Supreme records every single thing which is happening in this universe. He is part of that existence. He is the one who is performing and he is the one who is recording. So everything is he. This is so he is all pervasive. Basic meaning of this whole verse is that he is all pervasive. That is also the first verse of Ishavasya Upanishad. That ईशावास्यम इदम सर्वम, that ईशा का निवास संसार में सब जगह है, जड़ और चेतन सब जगह ईशा का निवास है. This is similar meaning here, that he pervades everything. He is, without him there is no existence possible. So this is the verse number 12. Now 13, sorry, verse number 14. वह संपूर्ण इंद्रियों के विषयों को जानने वाला है, परंतु वास्तव में सब इंद्रियों से रहित है. Now in the first previous verse he said that सब हाथ पैर हैं, सब और उसके नेत्र हैं, सब और सिर है, सब और मुख हैं, सब और कान हैं. And now he is saying कि कोई इंद्रियां नहीं है उसके पास. So this is a language of paradox. वो सब विषयों को जानता है लेकिन कोई इंद्रियां उसके पास नहीं है. Now without sense organs, how do we know all that? Because the origin of all sense organs come from him. If we look at ourselves, how are we able to hear? We are able to hear because of the instrument of ear we have. Now, instrument of ear is also there in a dead man. He cannot hear. So, behind the instrument of hearing, there is another power which is in existence, which actually provides energy to your ears. Similarly, there is another power which provides energy to our eyes or to our nose or to our lips or to our hands. That is what Keno Upanishad said in the very beginning. It says that your eyes don't hear. It is the power behind the eye of the eye, which enables you to see, which is the ear of the ear, which enables you to hear. It is the mind of the mind, which enables you to think. So the mind of the mind is Paramatma, the ear of the ear is Paramatma, the eyes of the eye is Paramatma. So this is what he's saying here, that he does not have any visible sense organs, but he is able to perform all activities of the senses. सब इंद्रियों के विषयों को जानने वाला है. We have 5 tanmatras, the 5 we call Vishaya, the 5 subjects of our senses. Those are basically, we all know, that is hearing is one, Shabd. Then we have Spars, touch. Then we have Roop, that is sight. Then we have Ras, that is taste. And then we have Gandh, which is smell. So these are the 5 tanmatras which he talked about before, which are fully understood by the Supreme without having any of the sense organs. So this language of paradox we must understand, because the Supreme cannot be explained without the language of paradox. The paradox is not in the Supreme. The paradox is in our limitations, because of the limitations of sense organs and the limitations of the mind, because the faculties of our senses are limited. They can only grasp X amount, they cannot grasp the infinite. Similarly, the mind cannot grasp the infinite, and that is why there is a difference between Kshetra and Kshetragya. So now he is talking about Kshetragya, which is infinite, and that is why this Kshetragya to us appears like a bundle of paradoxes. But in effect, that is not a bundle of paradoxes, that is the real supreme reality. What we see in this universe, in the physical universe where we live, that is actually paradox, not the supreme. So this is what we have to understand here. संपूर्ण इंद्रियों के विषय को जानने वाला है, परंतु वास्तव में सब इंद्रियों से रहित है, तथा आसक्ति रहित होने पर सबका धारण पोषण करने वाला और निर्गुण होने पर भी गुणों को भोगने वाला. Now he has clarified here all the paradoxes, that he has no attachment to anything, still he is looking after everybody. Now this is the quality, that if you have attachment, then you look after only those things where you have attachment. If you have no attachment, then you look after everything because everything belongs to you. So he looks after everybody. Sabko, he is holding everybody. He is, what the word here is, bhokta. He is गुण भोत्र, दैट इज गुणों को, सब गुणों को वो समझने वाला है, भोगने वाला है. So this language of paradox is extremely significant in the higher realm of spirituality. So this is what he says, without asakti, right? He has no attachment to anything, but he looks after everything. And then he has no quality, nirgun. He has no quality of his own, but he is able to understand all the qualities. All the qualities emanate from him. He is the source of all the qualities. If you have one particular quality, all qualities cannot originate from there. As soon as one particular quality appears, for example, if we have orange juice, now the quality of orange juice cannot become everything else, because then the lemon juice would be different and mango juice will be different. All those qualities will be different. But if something is without any quality, then variety of qualities can appear. Now let me explain this with one example. Now we have Akash. Akash, if we look outside and upwards, it has no division of any nature. It is uniform everywhere. It is all pervasive. Wherever we see Akash. All pervasive, all uniform, without any division. But whatever we see on the earth, we find it divided. We have a house which is divided into 5 rooms. Different houses are divided. Somewhere it is go down, somewhere it is a toilet, somewhere it is a theater, somewhere it's a big playground, somewhere it's a house, somewhere it's a shopping mall. Now all these actually appear in the same Akash. Without Akash, it is not possible. The boundaries which we have created, that are the dividing boundaries in our eyes. We have that division because of those boundaries which we have created. Similarly, in our body, the body has created boundary, and therefore the external part of the Supreme and the inner part look different. So some people feel that Paramatma is inside, some people say he is outside, some people say he's sitting up in the sky. Now that is contradiction because of these walls. In our sense, the wall is that of our body mind complex. In the physical world, the walls are physically created to create divisions among things outside the space. The space, the Akash, is absolutely uniform, all pervading everywhere. But it appears divided because of these walls. So, this is the reason that the thing which is Nirgun appears, in all the forms. Now, Akash has, in that sense, if we take it that way, it has no divisions, but it appears to be divided because of that region. Now, the next verse is verse number 15. वह चराचर सब भूतों के बाहर भीतर परिपूर्ण है और चर और अचर भी वही है और वह सूक्ष्म होने से अविज्ञ है तथा अति समीप में और अति दूर में भी वही स्थित है. नाउ दिस इज ऑल अगेन कॉन्ट्राडिक्शंस. बाहर भी है, भीतर भी है. द वॉल्स आर ओन क्रिएशन ऑफ द क्षेत्र, not that of Kshetrajna. Kshetra creates the wall, and that is why he appears to be inside and outside, but he is all pervading like the Akash. Akash is inside the house and Akash is outside. The wall is broken, then Akash appears uniform everywhere. When the wall is created, it appears divided. There is an example which is given in Upanishads very often, that you have a pot. There is Akash inside the pot, there is Akash outside the pot. It appears different. The inside Akash and outside Akash looks very different between the two. But as soon as you break the walls of the pot, the inside Akash and outside Akash is the same. There's no difference between the two. So this is exactly here is. The body-mind complex creates this inside Akash and outside Akash, but there's no difference between the two. They are the same. He says char और achar भी वही है. Now this is another big contradiction. Now he says char or achar. Now achar is basically prakriti and char is life where the movement is there. Like we move or birds move or animals move. Even trees move upwards, okay. So there is movement. But achar is like say mountains or the earth that doesn't move in that sense. So here he is saying that even uh, to that extent, uh, you see the Kshetra and Kshetrajna are also the same. And this is what he had said earlier. He had said that from my Apara Shakti, all these 8 elements, that is 5 gross elements and Man Buddhi and Ahankar, they appear. And from Parashakti, the life force appears. So once you go backwards from Kshetra and Kshetrajna also, then we will find that everything, even Kshetra, originates from Kshetrajna. Kshetrajna is the source even of the Kshetra. And that is what he is confirming here. Char and Achar, that is the nature and Purush, Prakriti and Purush, both are the same. Their origin is the same. And they both have what we call their location in the Supreme. So this is what he's saying कि चर अचर भी वही है, बाहर भीतर भी वही है, सूक्ष्म होने से अविज्ञ है. Now सूक्ष्म means it's so small, like an atom of the atom. That is what Mahat Tattva is, atom of all atoms. Now if you have atom of the atoms, he is saying avijja. The word is very important here. The word Sanskrit he has used is avijja. He has not said agya. That you cannot understand with your mind and intellect. That is what avijja means. Vigya and avijja. Gay and vigya, these are two different words. Vigya is a play of mind and sense organs and intellect. Gay is the play of your inner force, that is Kshetragya, that is your Paramatma or Atma. So you इसको गे संभव है, विज्ञे संभव नहीं है. That is what he wants to say. That he is so small. It is autumn of the autumn, and therefore you cannot understand this existence through mind, intellect, and sense organs. But he has not used the word gay, that people can understand. If it cannot be understood, then why are we trying to understand it? That question, right? If it is not possible to understand, why are we trying it? No, it is possible with experience. Gay, if you put it inside yourself, you go inside, if you do inward journey, if you discover yourself, then it is possible. And that is the word gay is important there, that उसको हम गे कर सकते हैं, वो अविज्ञ है लेकिन अज्ञे नहीं है. That is what he wants to say here. So that is why very precise word avijja has been used here, not अज्ञे. वो अति समीप है और अति दूर है. Now this is also a language of paradox. अति समीप और दूर का, तो when the something is infinite, there is no समीप and no दूर. There is no nothing near, nothing far, because there's no distance at all. It is all infinite. Infinite also we cannot understand in the real sense, because we all the time look at the distance. Infinite means distance, but there's no distance in infinite. It is everything. And that is why we sometimes infinite we feel wherever the expansion goes. No, it is not that way. Infinite means whatever exists is one integrated whole. And therefore, if one integrated whole is there, it cannot be near or it cannot be far. That is why he is near and he is far. He is the nearest and the farthest. This language is extremely important to understand. These contradictions are absolutely important to understand the Supreme. Then verse number 16. वह परमात्मा विभाग रहित एक रूप से आकाश के सदृश परिपूर्ण होने पर भी चराचर संपूर्ण भूतों में विभक्त सा प्रतीत होता है. Now this is what I explained before, that because of this body mind complex, this appears that Paramatma is divided. I am one Paramatma and you are another Paramatma, another person another Paramatma, another bird is another Paramatma. So you have trillions of Paramatmas all around. That is how we look at it. But that is not true. It is one single Akash which is divided into billions and trillions of houses and cities in the world. Similarly, there is one single consciousness pervading everything, which appears to be divided into various species of life and various, whatever living forces are. For example, we have 8 billion human beings. Maybe there are 20 billion other, life species. All that put together, they are all existing in the same thing. Like billions of, germs and these things exist in our body. They are all part of our body. They are different. If you ask a scientist, he will tell you your body is full of these germs, full of these, biotic existence inside, millions and billions of them. But they are part of the same single existence. That is why it doesn't appear differently. Similarly, if we look at the Paramatma, the whole universe is part of that one single entity. And that is why, from Paramatma's point of view, there's only one existence. From our point of view, there's so many different existences. The cells in the body, they fight against each other because for them it's a different existence. But for us, all the cells put together make the body. There's one single existence. So that is the difference. From the point of view of the Supreme, there's only one single existence which is divided into billions, trillions, whatever number we can have, but it is only one. It appears different because, like the Akash is divided into millions and trillions of cities and houses and other structures. Similarly, the Paramatma appears to be to us as divided into variety of beings all around, which is not true. It is only one single existence. Now, संपूर्ण भूतों में विभक्त सा प्रतीत होता, that is the word he has used, that it appears like that. It is not so, it appears like that. So this word is very important. Every single word which has been used in Bhagavad Gita has a profound meaning, and that is why in ancient times it was given a lot of emphasis to understand language and grammar very well, so that we can understand the meaning properly. Now, these days, we don't give too much emphasis on language and grammar. That is why many times our understanding of these scriptures is very poor. It happens because of the imperfect knowledge of language. Now, another thing here, very, very important part. वह जानने योग्य परमात्मा विष्णु रूप से भूतों का धारण पोषण करने वाला, रुद्र रूप से संहार करने वाला और ब्रह्मा रूप से उत्पन्न करने वाला है. Now here again it's a bundle of contradictions. Lots of Western people and other civilizations do not believe that God could be destructive also. So there's one contradiction is that he is the Srashta and he is also the destroyer. He is the creator and he is the destroyer. So he creates and he destroys. Now that contradiction is not acceptable to other civilizations. But in India, we all know, and our rishis knew it very well, that the creation and the destruction have to go together. They cannot be two separate forces, because without destruction, creation is not possible. If the same thing is altering again and again and reappearing, obviously one form will disappear and dissolve, then another form will appear, and then that form will again dissolve, and the next form will appear. So this process continues, and that is why we have divided the Supreme into three parts: Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. That is only because of our convenience. We understand birth separately, we understand life separately, and we understand death separately. We divide it into three forms: the time of birth, the time of our living, whatever age we have, 70, 80, 90, 100 years, and then the death. So accordingly, we have created these three energies which have been understood by our rishis, and those energies have been given the name of Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. The first energy is the one which creates, life. The second energy, one which maintains it, and the third energy is the one which destroys it or transforms it into a new one. So all these are one single uniform process. Like you go to a manufacturing unit, there is an input comes into, that input is destroyed and converted into something else. And that something else becomes the finished product. So there's a destruction and then there is a construction or new form which arises. And then this new form goes to the consumer, he uses them, and then again it is destroyed and goes back to the nature and again comes back. So like recycling is happening everywhere in every segment of this universe, similarly recycling is happening here as well. So if we can understand this well, that everything where this whole flow, the water comes from the ocean, goes up in the sky, forms cloud, and then goes around in other parts, and then again falls back on the earth, comes in the form of ice and comes in the form of rain, and then goes to the lakes and again comes back to the ocean. This cycle continues incessantly all the time, Similarly, the cycle of life continues incessantly all the time. People are born and then they live and then they are facing death, and then again this cycle is in relation to the not Kshetragya, but this cycle is in relation to the Kshetra. Kshetragya is looking after this cycle. Kshetragya is responsible for flow of this cycle incessantly. It is not part of that cycle. So this is what here Lord Krishna has explained this. Now the last verse we will take today. वह परम ब्रह्म ज्योतियों का भी ज्योति एवं माया से अत्यंत परे कहा जाता है। वह परमात्मा बोध स्वरूप, जानने के योग्य एवं तत्व ज्ञान से प्राप्त होने योग्य है और सबके हृदय में विशेष रूप से स्थित है। Now, after describing the paradoxes of supreme existence, he has now come to the more focused part, that Jyotiyon ka bhi Jyoti, that all the lights, all the enlightenment, all the knowledge which you see, he is the source. Because like year of the year, similarly Jyotiyon ka bhi Jyoti. Jyoti is not only the light, it's also the knowledge, it's also enlightenment. So he is the source of all the energy, all the light, all the enlightenment in the world. And Maya se atyant pare, because he is not divided, he is one single entity. And the division appears to us because of the limitations of body mind complex. And that is Maya. The body mind complex give birth to Maya. There the things appear divided. But he, as a supreme, is not divided. He is infinite and undivided. He is eternal and he is all existent all the time. Then वह परमात्मा बोध स्वरूप और जानने के योग्य तथा तत्व ज्ञान से प्राप्त होने योग्य है. Both Swarup, that is Jnanam. In fact, in Mandukya Upanishad, we said Prajnanam Brahma, that knowledge itself is, or Jnana itself is Brahma. Because we cannot have awareness, we cannot have knowledge without Brahma. Unless our life is there inside us, there's no way we can know things. The awareness and knowledge comes because of that life inside. So that is why he is the source of all the knowledge, all the light, or everything which we are aware of. So both Swarup, that is knowledge. Janne ke yogya. Now again this word has been repeated. The first he said in verse number 12 that Paramatma janne ke yogya hai. Here again he is saying he is the only one whom we should know. Because once we know him, then everything else is known. So he जानने के योग्य तत्व ज्ञान से प्राप्त होना. Now this word we discussed before. Tattva Gyan means you have to go to the fundamentals, to the root of the problem. Like if we go into the water cycle happens because of the forces of the nature. The sunlight heats up the water, then it becomes lighter in terms of the water is heavy, it will come down, but when it becomes water vapor, it goes up. That's also the temperature process. And then the wind flows it around here and there. Then again the temperature change happens, condensation process happens. It falls in the form of snow or rain, and then again it becomes water, and then again it starts flowing downwards and goes to the lakes and the rivers and then finally to the ocean. So that is the fundamental, that is the Tattva Gyan. Why this happens? This happens because of these operation of these five elements of the universe which make this happen. So similarly, if we can understand the existence of Kshetra and Kshetragya separately through our Tattva Gyan, then I think this problem will be over. Then we can understand the Supreme properly. और सबके हृदय में विशेष रूप से स्थित है. Now again he is reiterating this. He said that in the beginning of the chapter that He is in everybody. And here again he is saying, this basically here meaning is that Aham Brahmasmi. ये परमात्मा सबके हृदय में स्थित है, means everybody is divine. Everybody has that power of the Supreme. We can reach that power by analyzing ourselves, by realizing our own self. Who am I? So ultimately, he ends up saying here that Aham Paramatma, Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi. This is what he means here. So all this knowledge in these 6 verses, 12 to 17, uh, this knowledge is the knowledge of the Supreme, which is contained in multiple Upanishads. This is the summary of that knowledge. It summarizes the so called contradictions, so called paradoxes of understanding the Supreme. So, this is if we understand these verses up to 12 to 17, we will get to know what the Supreme is like. Now, the question will again arise whether we can understand Him through our limitations of mind and sense organs. No, we cannot. We have to transcend. We have to go to our own Supreme inside. Then we will be able to understand, experience the whole holistic nature of the Supreme. With our mind and with our sense organs, He will always look divided. But if we go internally inside and connect with our own self, and then we look at the universe, then whole thing will look unified, one single entity. So this is how the importance of self-realization is. Without self-realization, we cannot understand the overall unity of the Supreme pervading everything in this universe and transcending all the contradictions which appear to our body mind complex. So, this is a very profound knowledge which Lord Krishna has given here. And let's do some meditation on this knowledge periodically, and then slowly, we will reach that direction where we can understand all that without any problem. So, thank you very much. If you have any queries, I'll try to respond